Prepare for the 10th anniversary and start saving now. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are kicking off the first of our stone saving slash budgeting guide for the rest of the year as we lead up into the upcoming 10th anniversary. Now, I know it sounds crazy to phrase it like that, as we are in the tail end of the Heated Showdown worldwide campaign here in September 2024. However, now that we are full synced in both Global and JP Dokkan, we have to consider the possibility that it is very likely, almost guaranteed, that both Global and JP Dokkan will be sharing the 10th anniversary come February. So we want to make sure that you are prepared and you know everything that is coming up for the next 5 to 6 months. So in this video, we're going to talk about everything that should be coming up, give you a rough estimation of how many stones you should be able to earn during that time, and then maybe point out here or there some areas where you might want to toss some stones, but that'll be few and far between. So let's go ahead and let's start with the reason we're doing this, right? So we now know that these major celebrations are probably going to include this new form of pity. Now, regardless of how we feel about it, the fact of the matter is, in order to achieve pity on these major banners, it seems that it is across 4 banners, right? If we're talking a major celebration like anniversary or worldwide celebration. So all part 1 and part 2 banners, 2,500 stones or 500 of these coins need to be collected or used in order to achieve pity for one of the LRs during the celebration. So that's the goal. 2,500 is goal. Knowing what our end goal is helps us kind of frame whether or not the stones we're about to go over are worth saving or worth spending. So now that we know what we're looking towards, let's go ahead and kick off with what we know. So as of right now, all right, shout out to Misaka for this little calculation, we know that this year's worldwide silent celebration has been on the lower end in terms of stones receipts. This isn't a perfect calculation. In fact, I kind of went back and checked my calcs for this. There's a slight variation. I do think the number is slightly higher than this, but it's a rough estimation. Somewhere around 1,200 stones is what we've gotten here so far during this worldwide campaign. So if you're somebody who skipped out on the worldwide campaign and just was saving no matter what, you've probably got around 1,200 stones. So that'll be our baseline for those of you who are saving. If you haven't been saving and you went all in on worldwide, we'll just go ahead and start from 0. So we'll have 2 number totals running here. So 0 and 1,200. So this is just to kind of keep you guys in track of what we're working with here. So just know that that's where we're at. So let's start with our unknowns from this point forward. Moving forward on global, there are 2 unknown celebrations that we do not know how they're going to be factored in. So I'm going to just go ahead and factor them separately. So we'll start with Jiren, because Jiren's celebration is pretty much all but gone aside from his banner, the God of Destruction Boss Rush event, and the last stages of Supreme Magnificent Battle, and and the Infinite Dragon Ball history. So from Jiren's celebration, we can get left not a whole lot. It's right there's no more. The Easy A battle. So we have an Easy A battle from his celebration. We have the IDBH. We have the God events, as I said, and the Magnificent Battle. All those things together, right? So 34, right? 35. But the God of Destruction event gives about 25. And then the new Magnificent Battle. It's only 3 more stages, 5 stones each. 1 stone for completion is about 18 stones. plus the 2 missions that you get for completing the last stage. So 28 stones roughly are left over from that event. So altogether, that brings our total for what's left of Jiren Celebration, not including any login bonuses. Now, I'm not going to include login bonuses in that account because I included that the last time when accounting for Tech UI and all of that, and things got really messed up when they didn't account for the loss in login bonuses. So I'm not going to include that in our total here. So our total for this is roughly 125 stones. That's an average. It's not including anything I may have missed, new events, etc. Single stones. So roughly, we'll say 125 to expect left from Jiren Celebration. So that's not too bad. Okay. Then we have the Master Roshi celebration now. As far as we know, nothing yet from the celebration has been spread out to any other events, so we can just go ahead and count this one in full. Again, I'm not going to consider login bonuses for this, as now this will be overlapped with some other celebration on global since we are full synced. So I doubt they're going to give us extra login bonuses. So I'm not going to factor that in. So real quick, roughly, right, from this celebration, we have 2 banners, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Roshi and the Peppy Gals banner. So that's pretty much these 3 banners, the only banners left on Dokkan, right, of new units that we have not getting on global. So honestly, all 3 of these banners, I don't really think they're worth your summons, knowing that the 10th anniversary is on the way and knowing that we're working towards that 2,500 goal. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that out there. I'm not gonna waste any time talking on that. They're not worth your summons. Now, as far as stones available from this, we already got the new Baba event, right? So we don't have to consider that. So we have the Peppy Gal stage. This new Peppy Gal stage is roughly what was it? I did the calculation a minute ago. This new Peppy Gal stage gives 9 stones for each stage, and then 3 extra missions. It gives 23 stones, I believe. It does, or I'm sorry, 43 stones, right? Because 3 stones for each stage completion, right? So it gives 43 stones. The Peppy Gals event, we get 25 for Clash. We get Super Battle Road and Extreme Super Battle Road, so 6 and 8 stones. Another IDBH for this one, which gives us another 35 stones. 60 for the 2, well, actually it's 64 when you consider the missions, for the 2 Extreme Z Awakenings for Vidal and the 2 Peppy Gals, 21 stones for the weekend login bonus, and then a New World Tournament for 50 stones, 11 for the new Pets Hunt Battle, and that's pretty much it from Roshi Celebration. Other than that, we've pretty much got everything else, right? This is all just returning events. So if we factor all of that in, the grand total for Roshi Celebration that we are missing, not including login bonuses, is roughly plus 6. We're going to do the math out here. 8, 5, 4, 50, and 11. Okay, so roughly just over 240 stones there from Roshi Celebration, which sounds right. That is the average amount of stones that we can expect per celebration. So Roshi's celebration is a full celebration, which is going to get us around 250 stones. That's the average there. So that totally makes sense when we do the math for all of these events. So somehow, some way, these 250 stones are going to get spread out to global between now and the end of the year, right? Because I doubt they're going to wait too long to implement it. They'll probably just squeeze him and his celebration in, since there is no part 2 somewhere along the lines. Now, That brings us, so that those are the two unknowns, right? We don't know when these are going to get slotted in. But now we can move on to what is known, right? So following the worldwide campaign, we should be getting the next Dokkan Fest here in a couple of days. Last year for Global, this was the Turles, and for JP, it was the Androids. The Androids gave a little bit less on the Stones side, but it was still roughly within that 250 mark. As we counted out earlier this year in February. You guys can go check my video on the full breakdown of that back then. We're not going to do a full breakdown of these celebrations, but give a rough estimate of what we should expect. So roughly another 250 stones right there from whatever the October Dokkan Fest is. Right, that is the average. Sometimes it's a little lower, closer to the 200 side. Sometimes it's a little higher, closer to the 350 side, like this celebration here. This is why I bring this up, right? The Turtle celebration was actually closer to the 350 side, and that's because it included a couple new extra events that we didn't have previously. But of course, that may not be the case for whatever the October Dokkan Fest is. Now, let it be known, October Dokkan Fest has a chance that it could be related to Daima, and there could be a host of new events related to that added to this campaign. That could add more to the stone total than expected, right? So just be aware that the number here could actually be a little higher. Following this celebration, this is where we get into a little weirdness, right? Because on Global, we got the Fantastical Parade Halloween campaign, which was tied with a Part 2 LR, which meant that there were several stones and several events that ended up leading to getting our stones, right? It included all of the Peppy Gal stuff and whatnot that was previously released in August. So it's very possible they could just throw all of Roshi's stuff into this campaign and forego an October Part 2 LR just to get Global synced up, because otherwise, if they add a Part 2 LR on JP, we could be a little things could get a little messy in terms of catching Global up. We'll always be one LR behind at that point, which we don't want to have. So however they handle it, right, if we probably more want to look at JP, right? JP didn't get a whole lot for the Halloween campaign other than the new events and then the Extreme Z Awakening for the Dabura, right? I believe it's the Dabura and the Angel, or not Angel, the Super Saiyan Goku who got their EZA during this campaign. So more than likely, unless they fully toss in the Roshi campaign into Halloween, it's not going to give us much more than an extra 6 or so stones and plus login. So I wouldn't really focus too much there. Where things are going to get really messy, though, is as we move into the November Dokkan Fest. So on JP, the November Dokkan Fest, let's see, do I have it up here? Yeah, so on JP, the November Dokkan Fest last year was the Gohan and Piccolo campaign, which again with the sync here, this is going to be a little different than it is in years prior, because for Global, this November Dokkan Fest actually is the thank you celebration. This is where we would have gotten Tech UI and then this guy here. But that's not what's happening this year, right? We've already gotten Tech UI, so we're not going to be getting him during this. We will probably be sharing whatever this Part 2 is, right? Whatever this Part 2 November Dokkan Fest is. So it is a full celebration. It gave roughly 250 stones as per usual, but there was no Part 2 to it. And the reason there is no Part 2 is because it included the Super Dragon Ball Heroes campaign, Now this campaign isn't a full campaign. It doesn't give us usually the full amount of stones, but if you look here, we still got a pretty decent amount, right? We got 2 from the Dokkan events. We got another new story event and a new crossover event. So both of these combined, right, this 20 stones, this gave a little over 40 stones, right? So that's about 90 stones right there. Plus we include any the Extreme Z battle, which is another 30, where there were 1, 2, 3, 4, there were 8, so another 38 dragon stones, right? Because you get an extra dragon stone for awakening each one of these guys. So all of that included, it was just under 150. Once we include the new Dragon Ball Heroes Red Zone as well. So it's around 150 stones for this. Again, this is just rough estimations. I'm not going to fully break them down. So I assume we're going to get one last we're going to get one last Heroes celebration, because there are still characters that we need to cover. So we'll probably get a new story event. We'll probably get, you know, a new Dokkan event. We will definitely get, more than likely, the last Extreme Z battle. Now, this could be 2 Extreme Z battles, because there's still one more batch after the next batch, right? They might just Extreme Z awaken all of the Dragon Ball Heroes characters, as Dragon Ball Heroes is no longer a thing. It is it has ended as a show, right? So we can't be collaborating, right? This is a crossover campaign. We can't cross over and collaborate with a campaign that no longer, or with a show that no longer exists. So there's a good chance that after this year, we're going to be done with it. So they could just easy everyone, which would net us extra 360 stones, or an extra 60 stones on top of that. Now, that might not happen, so I'm not going to count that in our total. Just know that roughly this campaign gave us around 150 stones. So far, right, we're looking at... Alright, so far, we are, like, if we just total up so far, what we've counted so far, we've got, right, for the month of... For the month of November, including Heroes, we are looking at about 400 dragon stones. If we include October, right, we're looking at another 250. Whenever they decide to factor in Jiren, that's going to be another 125. And then, as we said, another 250 roughly for... another 250 for Roshi whenever that decides to factor in. So that brings our total so far up to the end of November to around... Alright, 775 dragon stones, roughly, right? 775 dragon stones. So that's actually pretty good, all things considered. If you were starting at complete 0, right, you would have 775 dragon stones. If you saved entirely throughout the worldwide download celebration, you are looking at roughly 1,975 dragon stones. And again, this is a rough estimation. At this point, right, up to November, with everything that is known, including Heroes, right? Again, I'm still of the mind that at this point, knowing our end goal is this, most free-to-play players should avoid summoning, except maybe somewhere like Heroes, if you like Heroes. But if you're not a fan of Heroes, no reason to summon there, right? And I only say that is because Heroes is guaranteed featured. You don't have to go too deep to get what you want. So that's the only reason I would throw that out there. And then that brings us finally into the month of December, where, so I think we pretty much have a good idea of what to expect for December, as last year's December celebration was shared, and we know that we're pretty much going to share everything. So this campaign actually gave quite a bit of decent stones, and December and January are some of the larger months when it comes to stones, right? If we include, now remember, I haven't included login and mission bonuses for any of these. These are just rough estimations based on events. So these actual numbers are going to be a lot higher, but this is just to give you an idea of what you can expect. So, right, if we just focus on the events here, we got new missions, new events here. Each one of these gave us, let's see, can I open, is it going to let me open up? Yeah, right. So like this event right here gave us roughly, right, 1, 3, 5, 7, 11, 15, 21, 23, 25, 27 dragon stones, 28 if you include the completion, right? So 28 dragon stones from that event, and then what about the clone event? How much did we get from that, right? So from the clone event, right, this one actually gave quite a lot. We'll get something similar to this effect to give us our total, right? So this one gave us, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each one, 10, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38 dragon stones from this one here. So, all right, combine those two, 28 and 38, we are looking at a little over 50 dragon stones, right? 66 actually, right? So 66. Now, if we come back to the actual campaign here, right, we also get a new story mode, a new clash, which comes regular. Now, these 20 stones or so from Explosive Chain Battle, they'll get in there somehow. We will definitely get whatever the new EZA is. And then, of course, there is the part 2, whatever that part 2 ends up being. Now, part 2 on both versions was centered around this guy here. So we had extra missions here, and then we had new intensifying fights, super battle roads, support memories, and then the EZAs as well, right? We had a second EZA. Where is he? Did I scroll right? I might have scrolled right past him, right? We had the EZA for Android 13 in here as well, along with the LR Android. So altogether, this celebration, I did the math previously, gave us just under 300 stones. It was like 280-ish, not including login bonuses, right? So adding that to our total, again, 775 roughly for those of you who are starting from 0 to 80, right? That puts you at 1,055 dragon stones. If you had been saving throughout this total time, you are looking at around 12. I'm sorry. Well, you're looking at around 22. What are we at? 1975. Yeah, so 1975 plus 280. You're looking at about 2205 dragon stones. So that's actually pretty good if you had saved all throughout Worldwide. I know that's not most people's situation, but I did want to factor it in there because I know plenty of people were talking about saving for Worldwide, knowing that 10th was around the corner. Now, moving on, the last events before the 10th anniversary, whenever that decides to happen, right? So for that one, we need to look at this campaign here on the JP side. Global side is a little bit different because for us, we were not, we were just literally taking the Trunks celebration and the Jiren celebration, or Omega celebration, and smashing them together. But more than likely, as we are synced, we are going to be looking at the Hirudegarn and Goku celebration, right? And of course, we already know that this gave over 300 dragon stones total on both JP and Global. We did do the math for this. We factored that in for back in April when we did this. So this was over 300 dragon stones for the whole campaign total, which makes sense, right? Because this is usually tied to New Year's, this means that They usually give you more than enough to do at least one round on the New Year's step-up manner, which I don't think it shows here, but they usually give you more than enough to do a round on the step-up banner, and this includes like your login bonus for the new year, which last year, 24 stones, right? So this year it'd be 25 stones, and then, all the campaign stuff that goes with that. So another 300 dragon stones to add to our total, so 2,500. Over 2,500 if you saved all throughout worldwide, and about roughly 1,350 if you started right now from 0. Now, this is really good to note because, right, anniversaries typically give anywhere between 12 and 1,500 dragon stones on the high end. Like, that's the highest, right? I think that's only happened like once. Otherwise, you're looking at around 1,200 to 1,100 dragon stones. So if you walked into the anniversary with 2,500 dragon stones because you saved from worldwide, you are looking at you have yourselves guaranteed at least one unit to walk out of, all right, not including anything you pick up within that 2,500 dragon stones, right? If you walked into this with 1,300 dragon stones, again, you are getting another 1,100 to 1,200 more than likely on the banners, to use for the banners during that celebration, which means that you will hit a grand total of about 2,300 to 2,400. So you'd be just shy. But again, consider that you can also trade units you already have rainbowed to whatever the Carnival coin or Dokkan Fest coin is that you want to use. So I ended up testing it out and talking to a few people. On average, people never actually used the full 25, unless you are a brand new player. Most people who have been playing for a while and have at least a few units rainbowed, right? The average number I saw was around 1,700 dragon stones used to actually pick up pity. And I can confirm this because I did it twice. I ended up pitying 2 units during the worldwide celebration. And I think for each one, it was, for the first one, during the part 1, I achieved pity within 1,700 stones. In part 2, it was far less. It was actually closer to 1,000 stones used and then units traded. So it is pretty, it is dependent on which dupes and how many you pull, but it's definitely possible to do it without hitting that actual 2,500. But we want to keep the 2,500 in mind because that is the mark. That is what we are saving for now that we know it exists. So in good argument, I cannot do this budgeting guide like I usually do, like, hey, throw a couple stones here, not that big of a deal, do 500 on heroes. I can't really do that budget like we normally would, unless you are an extreme fan of any character that is to be released between now and the 10th anniversary for whatever that ends up being, right? Super Gogeta and Super Vegito, for example, right? That would be great for a 10th anniversary, wouldn't it? I can't in good faith recommend summoning anywhere knowing that this right here is the goal for all players. So I just want to throw that out there for you guys. Sorry, this is a bit of a long video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, make sure you hit that like button. And if you guys, especially as well as if you guys like this video. So guys, that is it for this video. We got roughly 1,300 or so dragon stones, closer to 15 if you include the login bonus, on our way as we save for the 9th anniversary, or 10th anniversary rather. So if you guys like that video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and in the comments down below, let us know how many stones are you at right now and how many can you expect by the 10th anniversary in February, given everything we discussed today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and if nothing else, thanks for watching, and aloha.